In principle, it sounds like a really good idea to have a university in Shrewsbury because it will bring in a more diverse population, and it gives, hopefully it would give the general local population access to some kind of extra, what do they call it, extramural, courses and things like that. But it's very, very low profile, and I have heard that because after it was set up, the rules on how many students universities could take in changed, so Chester could take in as many students as they wanted to in Chester, and they're not really very interested in Shrewsbury. And certainly events I've been to at the university, one or two, they seem to be, all the staff are based in Chester, and I'm kind of guessing, but tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that most of the students who want to go to university in Shrewsbury, it's because they live at home anyway, and so they're not making the most use of the accommodation and the town centre facilities. So I'd be interested to know, really, but it certainly seems to me it's not fulfilling its potential at the moment.
University enables the introduction of a more diverse economy, and students do contribute to the economy of wherever they are. Secondly, having a university centre in a small town, this is central to Labour's philosophy about committing to lifelong learning, enables mature students to attend university when otherwise they wouldn't be able to because of commuting or because of moving house or because of commitments in the town. So actually, actually allowing people to study as adults is something that I, as a graduate medical student, I think that's really important, and I think that is the central ethos behind university centres.
Well, I assume that it was people in the education industry that wanted another outlet for their members, and so I assume that the University of Shrewsbury was created as part of the expansion of university education generally. And as a country, we have a target of up to 50% of all students going to university, which is clearly unaffordable in that the Labour government that introduced the idea had to introduce tuition fees. The coalition had to increase the tuition fees. Tuition fees are set to rise. We in UKIP are of the opinion that we should stop expanding university education until we can get people into employment. At the moment, something like 47% of those that leave university are in what are described as underemployment jobs, and that presumably means they're not in a job that is considered to be appropriate for a graduate. Now, and there seems to be no point in sending so many people to university if they're going to end up in the same sort of job that they would have done before they went to university and come out of university with a huge great debt. So we would want to stop the expansion of university education until at least 2/3 of university graduates were able to get into employment that warrants their degree.
Just before I answer that question, obviously there's been a lot of issue about funding for schools, and the gentleman expressed very clearly some of the head teacher expressed some real genuine concerns about the constraints that he is facing. As I said, I've taken many head teachers directly to see Justine Greening, and I would be very happy, if re-elected, to personally arrange a meeting.
I was one of them.
Yeah, well... Well, you went to see her, yes, and we will continue those discussions. I mean, either you want to listen or you don't. But what I wanted to say is that the two interesting facts is, of course, we want to fight for more education, more funding for Shropshire schools, but we ought to celebrate two things: the fact that even though this area receives half what London gets, the results are very, very good and much better than most part of the country, and that's a result of the hard work of school teachers in our constituency. But can I also say to you that one of my councillors came to see me, sent me this message today, that he met with the Shropshire Commissioner for Education Improvement today, Chris Matthews, and Shropshire Council is the 10th in the country for improvement of school standards. So that's very important to recognise. But to answer your question about the university, I'm very pleased that Peter Nutting, the councillor for Copthorne, has now been elected as the leader of Shropshire Council. I fought to prevent we went to the High Court even to try to prevent the abolition of Shrewsbury and Atcham Borough Council, which I thought was a very good council and directly accountable to the people in this constituency. We didn't want to have a unitary authority, but the then government forced us to abolish the local council and create this huge structure called Shropshire Unitary Authority.
We're a bit off topic.
University or school? No, but the answer, it's related, because now that we have a councillor from Shrewsbury who is running the unitary authority, it will be very important for you to engage with him to make sure that issues to do with the university and other priorities for this community are brought to his attention. He's represented the Shrewsbury ward for over 30 years, and I have a very good working relationship with him, and I very much hope that you, as a union, will engage with the new leader of Shropshire Council on issues to do with the university, which was obviously a project put forward and supported by the county town, by the unitary authority.
I think that done properly, a university can have a great benefit to a town like Shrewsbury. And to give an example, in my day job, I am a hydrogeologist. I run my own business here in Shrewsbury, solving groundwater and contaminated land problems. The university has just been awarded money to develop an environmental sort of discipline within its campus down in Shrewsbury. And I think there's a wonderful opportunity for Shrewsbury to create a much bigger, it's already got a great environmental sector here in Shrewsbury, but there's an opportunity to work with the university and with the schools to create something that will really create a hub here in Shrewsbury that is of national significance. And you can imagine that the university could support schools in doing sort of geology and environmental A-levels and those sorts of things, and the university could support spin-off companies to actually create jobs. And Shropshire actually has a problem. We don't see it so much here in Shrewsbury, but certainly in the surrounds, Shropshire's sort of becoming a retirement county. And, you know, we've got an ageing population, and that's not really very sustainable because people need care and looking after, but we need people who are young and working here and raising their families here. You know, our schools are suffering outside of Shrewsbury from falling numbers. We need families to come here and work. And we need a kind of thriving jobs market. And I'm sure that the university has a really big role to play in this. But at the moment, you don't really see it happening. And I kind of think, if I were MP, I would love to roll my sleeves up and kind of get really involved with this and see what can we create in terms of a real hub here in Shrewsbury to benefit not only our young people, but the whole town and our economy.
Asking all that. Academisation.
A one-word answer to your question is yes. Labour is committed to rolling back the marketisation and the eventual privatisation of our education system. It makes sense that local authorities should have oversight over what's going on their patch. It makes sense that individuals in that community can essentially boot their local authority out if they're not up to the job. That's what democratic accountability is all about, and that's what we need.
Well, what I would say is that the first point that you raised about your figures and the NUT, I spoke of two head teachers that had grave concerns today, but I have had letters and emails from others also very concerned about your figures. I'm just asking that if you are going to have a campaign of this kind, and you're going to have marches and demonstrations, and you're going to tell constituents that a school like Priory is going to lose 11 teachers. I mean, it has about 52 teachers, so that would be a drastic cut. Then I think it's very, very important that your figures tie up with what each and every head teacher is saying. And to those of you who aren't members of the NUT in this room, but who are actually concerned parents, I would say to you that you ought to look at their website, and then you ought to take it to the head teacher of your own school and ask the head teacher for their interpretation. The second question is the academies. I've had various head teachers approach me and ask me for my support as Member of Parliament to help them with their academisation process here in Shrewsbury. And I believe that I will continue to support this, and I think it's very important to ensure that head teachers and communities and governors have as much choice available to them, and academies is part of that choice.
Edward, academies?
Academies, well, our policy in UKIP is to have a secondary education system whereby there are schools which I will call grammar schools, for want of an easy word, but we want to go along the German line or the Netherlands line where they also have vocational schools and technical schools, and pupils can transfer backwards and forwards from those as their skills develop if they so want. Getting rid of academies, we have no policy at this moment about getting rid of them. It's a matter of evolving an education system for the future that enables our children to be equipped for life that they are going to lead. And we have to accept that some pupils are not going to be academically bright. As for privatisation, what we believe at this moment is that we should have local authority schools under the control of the local authority.
So on academies, I have to take you up, Daniel, it's not a choice. I know that Millbrae School, where my children went, held out for a long time against being an academy, and I was really pleased to hear that, although I wasn't directly involved in the discussions. But now I think that all schools are being pressured to become academies. So it's not a question of giving teachers and governors choice. It's a question of pushing them, pushing schools down that road because of the kind of belief that the market will improve education, which is, there's absolutely no evidence that free schools or academies improve performance at all. And in fact, Ofsted is very concerned about a lot of multi-academy trusts. So it's on the contrary, it should be being abandoned rather than pushing all schools into academies. We would bring all academies, as I said at the beginning, all academies and free schools under local authority control.
In my view, under no circumstances should state-run schools be profit-making. It's just wrong for public funds to be used in that way. And the Liberal Democrats would put an end to further academisation of schools. Nobody thinks that academies are a choice at the moment. I'm a school governor, I know lots of other school governors, there are many teachers in this room. Lots of you will have been to these sort of mini conferences where, you know, the academy trusts and the church trusts and the various people are all sort of showing their wares, and the vultures are circling from the academy chains, and all the slick marketing men are there, and everybody I know who's been to one of those says their stomach turns. They do not want to do this, and they don't see it's going to benefit their school, and they don't see it's going to benefit their children. I think the whole programme is just ideological. It's about taking control away from local authorities, and in my view, local authorities are infinitely better placed than this, whatever it is, the regional schools commissioner body. Local authorities are much better placed to actually drive school improvement and to support schools locally, and also have the democratic control. So to my mind, academisation and further academisation is completely wrong, and it should be stopped.
Okay, yes, sir, you've been waiting a long time.
No.
Well, sorry?
Please say no.
What I would say is I think that there is a caucus within the Conservative Party, Theresa May being one of them, and also the chairman of the 1922 committee and others, who went to grammar schools themselves.
I think this is a no, isn't it, Daniel?
No, well, they went to grammar schools themselves, and they feel passionately from that experience that they were helped to achieve what they've achieved as a result of their experience of an opportunity of going to a grammar school. Today, I spoke to a very experienced former head teacher, retired head teacher, who said to me that if there was a grammar school in Shrewsbury, that would have a significantly negative impact on the other schools in our community, and that he wouldn't support such proposals. I'm not a zealot on this issue of grammar schools. And I would be willing, if re-elected, to listen to the union about their views on whether or not we should have a grammar school in Shrewsbury.
Will you vote with the whip or will you vote no?
I'm willing to listen to my constituents about this issue before the vote takes place.
I think it's fair to say everybody else is no. Yep.
if possible. I think what Daniel Kaczynski has said has really highlighted an issue that's ongoing in education, which is that you get a new Prime Minister or a new Health Education Secretary, and they imagine that the way that they were educated is the best way to educate everybody, and they go and change everything and try and make it like it was for them, and it's just ridiculous. The Lib Dems are saying that an independent education standards authority should start doing long-term planning for our schools, with the right kind of evidence-based policy being put forward into our schools, and that it should really stop becoming this political football. It's not just a political football, it's kind of subject to these weird personal convictions that politicians have, and it should really stop.
Yes.
It's ludicrous to say that because a group of politicians benefited from a grammar school, they now think that grammar schools are a really good idea. This is purely ideologically driven. It's the way I went to a grammar school and I don't believe they're a good idea because, I did well, if you sort of, depending on slightly your definition of it, but, I did well academically.
Not proof that it works. You went to a grammar school, you're a doctor.
No, because I come from a stable and supportive family. I'd go as far as saying strong and stable. But the thing is,
I didn't think you'd be the one to say that today.
My experience of grammar school was the kids that passed the 11 plus and therefore didn't go to a private school that they otherwise would have gone to, did well. The kids that came from the poorer primary schools in the town did really badly. And so, it's been shown over and over again that grammar schools do nothing to improve social mobility.
Okay.
And I will also say, this is backed up by the OECD's report in 2015, which demonstrated that children with the same SATs results from poor backgrounds and wealthy backgrounds, when they're at grammar school, the wealthier backgrounds still do better. And so it doesn't work. If there was any evidence supporting grammar schools, I'd be all for them, but there isn't. Secondly, where there are grammar schools now, when I went, you just turned up at primary school one day and took the 12 plus as it was then and didn't really think anything more about it. But now, you're not allowed to you don't take the 11 plus in schools. Therefore, your parents have to make a special effort to put you into the exam and pay for it. And then, therefore, the vast majority of kids from poorer backgrounds are not going to get even the opportunity to take the exam. Okay. Not to mention not getting the private tuition. And also, the primary schools, if they suddenly grammar schools became universal, primary schools would spend half their time in years 5, 6 and 7 teaching kids and coaching kids to get them through the 12 plus, when they could be spending that time teaching them the things that they should be teaching.
I'm going to come on to that next. Lady in the white and the glasses.